Meeting is called to order. We don't have electronic participation. Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Day.
Please rise for the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Day. Next one is agenda approval. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Second.
I want to make
Mr.
go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to alter the agenda by having an HR report after the closed session.
So there's a motion to amend the agenda to add an HR report. Is there a second to that?
Second, I think, so I'm just going to be
Mr. DePaul,
specific
second.
about.
Comes right after the closed session.
So this would be in the consent agenda, so it would be item J3.
Yeah. There's a second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll for amending the agenda?
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes?
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now, the motion is the main agenda approval with the amendment. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Dr. Tinsley, Mr. Andrews, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes?
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley?
Yes.
We don't have item E, F, and G. The student representatives are not here. Schools are closed, so they'll come back to us on 14th, our work session. Next is public comments. Dr. Day.
Okay. We do have one community member signed up to speak tonight, so I will just try to briefly remind everybody that persons appearing before the school board will not be allowed to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures, and should not use profanity or vulgar language, make comments about a specific public official or employee that are not related to that public official or employee's official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meeting or intimidates others, or nor address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, role, or responsibilities of the school board. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit their comments to 5 minutes. The representative shall identify the group at the beginning of their presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson. Total allotted time for public comments at school board meetings is 30 minutes. Voicemail messages will be played, or to be played, are also limited to 3 minutes for individuals and 5 for speakers representing a group. Priority is given to students first, second staff, third parents and guardians, and 4 community members. And I don't think I need to go any further with that. We only have one signed up speaker tonight, Mr. Gary Taylor.
Good evening, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Day, Dr. Copeland, and school board members and school staff. Happy New Year to everybody. Great way to start out your new school year today and yesterday. So my name's Gary Taylor, and I own GT3 Consulting, and I'm also the founder and president of a bipartisan committee in Lynchburg called Citizens for a Better Lynchburg. So I'll just have 2 topics tonight. Hopefully everybody's got the handout. Sometimes I get a little wordy, so I might not make it in my 5 minutes, but it's about regarding school closures and the superintendent search. So we have a new year, we have new school board members, we have a new city council, now we have a new mayor and a new vice mayor. The stars are aligned for you for the next 2 to 3 weeks. You need to make things happen in the month of January because the deadline will be done for this school year at the end of January. The new mayor, Mr. Larry Taylor, my brother from another mother, just went on WLNI yesterday to inform you all that it's your responsibility to close schools. Okay? So you can go back and listen to the tape on WLNI. It's the school board's responsibility to close schools, not city councils. Okay? So that's a very encouraging thing. So it is time to get back on track from the long, extended debacle over what was agreed upon 5 years ago by every school board member, every school administration member, every Democrat, and every Republican, and everybody that was anybody in the city of Lynchburg that understands anything about schools, that we need to close schools. You have a 78-page report that outlined it in perfect detail. And we didn't do it. But you have another chance. So you're having your second bite at the apple. So hopefully everything will go according to Hoyle. So I would encourage you, whether you can do an emergency vote tonight, or you can do a special meeting, whatever you need to do. Everybody's already agreed. Everybody knows. Now it seems it's right in your lap. Anybody that was at the prior school board meeting, you actually heard parents now starting to say that they understand that schools need to close. They've had their say. So please, anything you can do is let's move this forward. So that's has to have the process followed. You know, I was very disappointed on what happened with the MGT thing and that whole scandal. You know, it needs to be investigated. But we don't have time to worry about it right now. But how in the heck we discarded a 78-page factual report for a 27-page piece of garbage is beyond me. Okay? You all have it. I've sent you the links. It's all out there. So this rewrite history. So we just need to pick up the ball and start going back towards the goal line. You were at the 5-yard line before. Everything was done properly. You followed the process, and then just some people wanted to play politics. The whole world is politics. Some of you people know me. I've been involved in politics around here for a good while, 45 years to be exact. But first time I met Dr. Day, one of his comments was, I don't like politics. I think 90% of us in America would say we don't like, especially today, because it's so divisive. And that's why I started the Citizens for a Better Lynchburg. But I wasn't laughing at him when he said it. I was laughing with him. The fact is, you don't have to like it, but you have to understand it. And this board got steamrolled by some people with bad intentions. So all that's behind us. So I'm a forward, that's why the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror. All that's behind us. So all I would say, whatever you can do, the city council put it in your lap. Take the ball and run. You're at the 5-yard line. Score the touchdown for the kids of Lynchburg. Start the process. This isn't going to happen in 1 or 2 years. This is a decades process. But we got to start somewhere.
Okay, we're at the 5-minute log now, so.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, on the superintendent search, I don't really want to discuss it. I just put an idea out there. You know, I'm not trying to put Dr. Copeland in a corner or anything. I'm just saying, if the search committee's done a great job, if that was something that was still possible, that didn't have an expense to the board.
Gary, you need
Thank
to
you.
stop.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Next one is a notice of closed meeting. The board chair recommends the school board approve a motion to convene a closed meeting to discuss the following as permitted by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1, the discussion of assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation of specific Lynchburg City School personnel. Is there a motion to go into?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. DePaul and Mr. Andrews. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll to go into closed session?
Mr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Jalil,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes?
Dr. Gupta,
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie,
Yes.
Dr. Tansley,
Yes.
motion carries.
We'll go upstairs. Is Attorney Towns there?
Yeah, I saw her walking in.
Okay, so she's going upstairs. We'll see you upstairs. School board chair recommends the board approves the certification of closed meeting in accordance with the Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1. Is there a motion to approve the certification of closed meeting?
Motion.
Mr. DePaul,
Second.
Dr. Day, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next one is consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent
Motion.
with the HR report as part of it?
Yeah, we've already approved the inclusion of the HR report.
Second.
Mrs. Lowry, Dr. Tinsley, before we approve, I'll give a minute to Dr. Copeland. Go ahead, Dr. Copeland.
Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to announce that Ms. Ashley Burks is the next Director of Special Education for Lynchburg City Schools, effective immediately. She's currently employed with Lynchburg City Schools as a board-certified behavior analyst. She has 17 years' experience in education. She has served as a classroom instructional assistant after getting her special education bachelor's and master's degree. She has worked as a special education teacher for Lynchburg City Schools, a special education lead in a building for Lynchburg City Schools, and she served for, I think, about 6 years at the Blue Ridge Autism Center. She is going to be stepping into the director role immediately. Let's see if I had anything else highlighted to share. She has degrees from Liberty University in special education, curriculum instruction, both a bachelor's and a master's, as an education specialist degree and a behavior analyst degree. So she comes to us very qualified, and we're looking forward to getting her into the role and helping us in all areas related to students with special needs.
Mrs. Lowry, would you like to say on your chair of academic success on this appointment?
Could I?
Comments?
Comments on Ashley Burks?
Dr. Tinsley, you wanted to say something?
Oh, about, I thought we were saying that for board assessment assignments later.
On behalf of the board.
On behalf of the board, we welcome, yeah, academic success. We look forward to Ashley and working with her, and anything she needs, please, show up at our meetings. We have the next one is January 28th, so yeah, definitely.
I think it's a great appointment. I've been a consumer of special education for my daughter for 12 years. And Willis Vendor workers' shoes have been very difficult to fill, and I think she's the best choice who can come close to emulating what Willis Vendor worker provided us as consumers in the city of Lynchburg. So thank you very much, Dr. Copeland. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? There was a motion, right?
Yes.
We already approved it.
Would you please call the roll, ma'am?
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Jalil?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes.
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. DePaul?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next one is finance report, Dr. Copeland.
Turn it over to our skilled CFO.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairman Gupta, members of the board, and Dr. Copeland. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. I'll be brief in my remarks this evening to lend more time to the budget discussions. You have before you the November 30th, 2024 month-end financials. As of November, we have had 41.7% of the fiscal year has passed. It's flying by. The percent of revenues collected versus original appropriation was at 27.4%, and the amount of expenditures versus original appropriation was at 35.1%. Once you add encumbrances in with those expenditures, it equates to 78.6%. There are a few notable variances on line 21 on your expenditure report. Under attendance and health services personnel, it's used 54.7%. With 41% of the year gone by, 54.7% is a little high for the month of November. That's due to some personnel and salary benefits, and the larger than normal encumbrance is associated with attendance clerks and some restore staff that's in there.
It's the LCS. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I just
That's
got
our
one
school
too.
division announcement.
Yeah.
So,
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks all.
Mine came in as your name. The rest of the variances, as discussed in prior reports, are related to front-loaded technology expenses. I'll just breeze by them because you're already familiar with that. The technology classroom instruction is used 148.35% because of all of our IXL learning, our textbook software, and other learning expenses has to be purchased at the beginning of the fiscal year. So that 148% will balance out towards the end of the fiscal year. Function 8200, line 88, instructional support other. We have used 77.7% of the budget due to expenses relating to materials and supplies that outfit classrooms and students with technology equipment. Line 90, function 8300, technology administration other. It's used 124.1% of the budget due to expenses and encumbrances relating to technology needs inclusive of vendors such as CDW Government, Secure Technology, and Frontline Technologies, which we also use every day. Line 92, function 8500, technology pupil transportation, has used 100% because those are the bus software that had to be loaded at the beginning of the year to start transporting pupils. The same thing with line 94, function 8600. It's used 100% of the budget due to expenses related to Operation Hero and Raptor technologies to protect our students while they're in the classrooms. The statement of revenues, only a couple of things to note on there. Our federal, state, and local revenue collections, they're lagging a little bit. The federal is at 34.9, state is at 21.0, and local is at 13.2 respectively. I think those slow disbursements are connected with the holidays, and as soon as everyone gets back in the office, I'm sure we'll be processing those. Then our miscellaneous and our charges for services, they're actually significantly ahead of target for the fiscal year. They're coming in at 89.4 and 78.1 respectively. So we're doing well on those revenue lines. You have before you our monthly summary report. We finished the audit. We now are able to provide health insurance data as of November 2024 versus November 2023. The balance of health insurance costs reduced by 81.3%. So it shows that that the school board's initiative to increase premium input is actually paying off. That in November we were at a negative 159,692, whereas the previous November we were at a negative 853,839. So we're doing much better this year, and I anticipate the premiums that are going into effect as of January will actually dig us out of that hole even more if our claims do not rise commensurate with our premiums. So that's a bit of good news. I know I went quickly, so I'll entertain any questions that you have at this time.
Questions?
Did you get the email that says LCS is proud to announce it has received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award?
Yes,
for
sir.
Government Finance. Great job.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I do have your few pages of questions. What I'll do is I'll answer them in writing, provide them to Dr. Copeland, and have him send them to everyone, if that's okay, for the sake of brevity and time, so we can get on to the budget.
Thank you.
So, sure.
Ms. James, I have, any other questions? So if your fiscal year was ending on December 31st, half of the year,
Yes, sir.
July 1st to December 31st, what is your projected expense and actual expense? Is there a positive variance or a negative variance?
So we do not have the expenditures for December, and I'm not in the place that I'm going to project if I don't have the expenditures yet. Usually, we're allowed 15 days after a month-end close for reporting on prior month. So December 31st, I will have all of those invoices processed and those expenditures in by January the 15th. And I'll be able to make a recommendation or an analysis like that.
So by February board meeting, would you be able to give this board your half-year,
Absolutely.
fiscal year variance? If it's positive for general public, that's savings. If it's negative, it means we have encumbered more expenses, and some of them may be for future procurements, but.
Yes. And I will note that some of our encumbrances that we encumber at the beginning of the year, some of those don't come to fruition. So as expenses and projects come in cheaper, we're able to release some of those encumbrances back into our budget. So just because we've encumbered this amount of money doesn't mean that we're going to use all of the encumbered. It's to make sure that we have the money in the bank should those invoices come in higher than normal. So I will be able to provide that data to you. I think that the fact that we have only spent 35% as of November, and we're 41% into the fiscal year, it shows that we are significantly underspending in some lines and potentially can have a savings at the end of the year.
And my
So-
same question with the variance will be any unfilled positions for the first 6 months?
You're talking about
Yeah.
salary lapse?
Yeah, or salary savings.
Yes, sir. I haven't been
What's the
able to.
dollar amount for
Yes.
positions overfilled or underfilled?
Okay,
So that way, we know the net coming out of that in the frozen first 6 months, from a finance perspective, right? If the budget is frozen as of December 31st, so that it should not become sort of a piggy bank you can keep into the next 6 months.
yes, sir.
'Cause,
Yes, sir. We can provide you with some data on that. I don't know that we have frozen positions right now. I would have
No,
to
I'm not talking
refer
about
to
What I'm saying is,
Shepherd.
as of December 31st, let's say you got 10 unfilled positions at $50,000 apiece, that tells me that the positive variance was about $500,000.
Yes, I will, I work closely with the HR department to find that data out for you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So the variance of 159,000 negative for health insurance, you think will turn positive?
I anticipate if our claims do not rise in accordance with our premiums, I anticipate we may be out of the hole in January. That's a supposition on my part. But if claims don't come in really high and we don't have a whole bunch of people fall down and, run to the doctor and things like that, then I think we're digging ourselves out of the hole.
So if we're digging ourselves out the hole for good, do we still need that $1 million of contingency reserve? Is it required by the code? Is there a legal requirement, or could we consume that to buying?
That would be a city recommend. They hold that reserve for us, so it would be up to city council of whether they would want to release that $1 million to be utilized in something else. But just because we're digging ourselves out of a hole, in the next couple of months, doesn't mean we won't quickly get back in it if we have some high claims, high costs for employees. So I think that in your wisdom, that it's best to hold some sort of money to cover any high-cost claims that come in.
I'm thinking like Mr. Andrews, $1 million means $1 increase for our hourly employees. So if you're holding this money in a bank account and they're struggling right now to pay their day-to-day bills, you know what I'm saying? Should we use that?
But I caution the board that that's using one-time money for a forever
Yes.
expense.
But this contingency stays forever. It's not one time.
It's not a wise move to make.
No, I wouldn't do it
So for a good choice, unwise decision.
Your heart's in the right place, yes, sir.
either. We need to get that increase in our budget. Regular budget.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Next one is unfinished business, 25-26 budget discussion, Dr. Copeland and Mr. DePaul, right, Chair of Finance and Facilities Committee.
So I'm going to start the discussion, and then we'll see where we go. So yesterday, you received an email giving you the best guess we had yesterday, and I couldn't have predicted it better. But around 10 o'clock this morning, I got a state superintendent's memo, and the calculation tool for FY26 was released. So I have an updated set of numbers for you.
This is public.
And we'll get this posted. This is all hot off the presses, so it'll get posted and uploaded within the board agenda sometime within the next day. I also shared with you the different price components
I'll take it.
of
Sorry.
of things we had talked about in a small little table. So looking at really the key components of what the 3% raise across the board cost us, what it costs to do the $50,000 starting teaching salary, what it would cost to get all employees that are hourly to a $17 minimum, what the step increase is going to cost us, some bus aid estimates, some building sub estimates, and some inflationary numbers for all the other stuff that we buy. The part that sometimes where you get caught over the long term is all your software maintenance contracts and the things that you buy, they're adding inflation, they're adding fuel surcharges. Those things are always moving, and if you're not keeping up with that, at one point you might see certain lines that are over obligated once you pay those bills because you had an increase of 4 to 8% and you've got to play catch up with that. So Ms. Jamis did a great job of estimating some type of an inflationary factor for the stuff that we buy and have to pay for. So that's my starting position. Do you have anything you want to add before the board starts their discussion?
I will add that we had a considerable number of requests from schools and departments. Unfortunately, we weren't able to add all of those requests into this budget because it would have significantly increased our ask from the city. So the numbers you see before you are not inclusive of every need that we have in the school division. It is a starting point. It mainly focuses on getting the pay of our well-deserving employees up to status quo, or at least, regionally acceptable. And it does look at a couple of added positions out at the schools to help with the lack of being able to garner substitutes, and then some bus aides to help with the bus drivers as they deal with the students on the buses. So it does not encompass everything that I discussed with all of the schools and departments. I would love to have put everything in there, but it would have just been a significantly huge ask from the city. So we had to parcel down those asks to what you see before you and what Dr. Copeland sent in his email. So
One piece to kind of get everybody back from the winter break and from the last board meeting, the city is awaiting what our ask is going to be. This is significantly earlier than I think it has been in the past. This is not a binding number that we're sending them. It's kind of where we think we're at this point. So you'll see that number on the local operating line, which is the fifth line down, right above total operating revenues. They will take that number and put it into their planning and their formulas, and then we'll start the back and forth discussions. So this is just the point of the beginning, not anywhere close to where we'll be in the end.
Numbers you're presenting It includes a $17 minimum wage for our hourly employees.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
It includes minimum base of 50,000 for our school teachers.
Yes, sir.
It includes 3% increase as proposed by Governor Youngkin in his biennium budget
Yes, sir.
for all our teachers,
The whole,
right? I'm going through the lines, remind me if I forget. Bus aids, how many bus aids were there?
10.
10 bus aids for school buses. And what else? There were multiple lines. I was trying to see.
The step increases for employees that are in the step rotation on the salary schedules.
And
Building substitutes.
16 building subs, so a full-time individual that goes to a building every day and substitutes wherever they're needed. And then the inflationary estimation for things we buy.
And this total adds up to how much?
And we need not forget about the benefits that go along with all of these salaries, and the benefits that go with addition of any new employees. So just those items that we discussed come up to $5,859,006.55. Now, that number does not include the 18.5% insurance that the school board just adopted for premiums. That does not include that. So when you look at when you look at the total ask actually includes that 18.5%.
And how much is the total ask for the public, just those who don't have?
Is it still the 7.3?
No.
It is actually, we were able to get some additional funding today from the calc tool. So the ask of the city is an increase of $5,531,644. So the complete ask would be $44,891,999 is what we would be going to the city to ask for.
Okay. Don't put the other dollar in there.
I'm sorry? I'm precise, sir.
So it's about $5.5 million on top of what we had last year,
Yes, sir.
approximately.
Yes, sir.
And the things you are suggesting are not buying a Ferrari. These are basic needs which are needed in the school district to keep the morale high and keep running the school district, because
It's not all the
$17 is not even an ideal wage, knowing the minimum wage in Virginia is now $12.41. A 3% increase on $15 is 45 cents. Whereas 3% increase on $100,000 is $3,000. It doesn't even pay the bill. So $17, $50,000 is still below what the localities around us are paying,
That is correct.
right? That's,
So we were able to offset some of the ask to the city because we got an additional $1,465,913 from the calc tool that was distributed today. So our total budget increase, as it stands this early in the fiscal year, our total budget increase from prior year would be $6,997,557. So, but a portion of that is being covered, 57. There's no cents on there. A portion of that's being covered by the state increase that we received today, and then the rest of it is covered by the city requested.
your 3% increase was $3 million, but that doesn't include the SOQ funding we get.
According to the number of positions that we have as of now, the 3% increase calculation comes to $2,237,607.31.
For all employees?
Plus benefits.
The benefits come to $474,140.
Those are for all employees or only non-SOQ?
No, that's all employees, yes,
So,
sir.
but SOQ is funded by the state.
Well,
Correct.
you could
Go
say
ahead,
that.
Dr. Wodecker.
You could say that.
So a portion of the SOQ funded positions are funded by the state. In all, it's about 33% of the increase of costs is covered by state money.
So are we taking that out from that 2.2 million we're asking?
That's part of the 1.4.
So that's 1.4 is coming through SOQ.
That money is in the calculation tool that we got from the
But
state.
that's the salary increase money, it's not
Correct.
the enrollment.
Correct.
So that's the salary increase through the SOQ funded positions. So really, the 3% increase is costing the district about $1.5 million, right, from our pocket. Is that a fair statement? 2.9 and 1.4 is coming to the Calc 2.
3.7.
So the local piece of that compensation supplement is $1,440,486. The calc tool that was distributed today by the governor actually puts the state portion of that compensation at $2,279,777. So it is a little bit more than our calculation, but we have to cover all of the benefits associated with those increases. So the local piece of that will be covering those benefits.
In a layman's term, and I'm asking too many questions, would
No,
you be
you're
able
fine.
to tell me total required for 3% increase, state-supported dollar amounts for that 3% increase, and the local match for that 3% increase?
Yes, sir. The total salary only is $2,237,607.
2.23.
Yes. The calc tool that was distributed today for the state portion has $2,279,707. And the local piece of that, to pull down that money, is $1,440,864.
So if you look on the back of what I handed out, this is the calculation tool that was sent. And if you go down to line 15 on the front page, you can see those compensation supplement numbers that she's quoting to you.
Yes.
So that's
And
why
our
we
shares
provided,
okay.
this.
So our ask, but we had you had for 5.53 million, has that 1.44 plus the benefits.
Yes, sir. It's a combination of all of those factors, mostly salary and benefits related, yes.
Right, I'll shut up now. and
No, you're good.
Unwise questions, and move on to
My
Mrs.
question
Lowry.
is, one of the things that I was interviewed on to be on the school board was what will we do to help our high schoolers to graduate in CTE, things like that, because other cities in Virginia are doing much better than we are. And then I remember Ms. Pugh saying instead of the CVC portion to extend the CTE Academy. So if the city council wants our high schoolers to graduate, more students to graduate going into business, the local companies and things like that, is the CTE Academy one of the things that we left in, because that was one of their requests, is that we do something about that, but that funding needs to come from them, so is that asked in there?
I would say it would still be in there with
Yeah.
the same number of seats that we have this year.
But
I
we
didn't
want to
expand
increase the
any.
seat. That's what
Right,
I'm
we didn't
saying, though.
expand it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, can we expand it? Because that was their specific request, that they want more students graduating and going into working with the local companies, businesses, and things like that.
It would just be in addition to what we have presented to you tonight. And I'm not up to speed on CTE to know how many seats we have in the CTE Academy and what the cost per seat is, so we'll have to get back to
We
you.
currently have 25. I'm not sure of the cost per seat, but I think we have 25. I don't know how many of those 25 are actually filled. I will get that information from Mr. Dooley of the exact number of seats, how much a seat costs, how many students we have from each school, and I'm sure he can also tell me what courses they're participating in. So I will get that back to you all.
Okay, yeah, because he would know more students would like to be part of it, so, and
And-
that was a ask from city council.
And we'll go back to remind you of the early college discussion. We'll also need to ask CVCC what their ramp-up time is. If we want to infuse another 15 or 20 students, do they have the instructors to do that? Do the programs that they're offering align with what our student needs are?
Yeah,
Right, and-
which he told us no. That's what he told
Those
us.
were
No,
two, those
No,
were
that
two-
was
those
not
were
a-
two different
absolutely is
programs.
not.
Different
I thought you said
program.
you weren't ready for that yet.
I want to be on record as that's absolutely not what I
Okay,
said. I said
okay.
we just need the ramp-up time to make it happen.
Gotcha,
Yes.
gotcha, okay. All right, well, I just know.
And I don't
that's
know
a-
what programs, if they're doing HVAC maintenance and welding and
Yeah.
some of what I consider Central Virginia high needs. I don't know if those are the programs that we have students in, but
But I know that was an ask.
we'll gather that information and get it out to you.
Okay, thanks.
The baseline of those programs are included in our current ask. No expansion on those programs are included in our current
Yeah, and the
ask.
only reason I wanted the expansion is because that was a focus they had for us.
Okay.
So if we need to expand it, then we need it for the budget and they need to support it.
Okay.
So, other question, I have more questions.
On line 4, are we contributing 441,000 to the textbook total of 698,000? On the second page.
It's on
Textbooks.
Oh, okay.
this is the one.
First page of the,
State.
Okay.
Just-
Yes, sir, the local share of those textbooks are $441,521.
And are they going in hand with the laptops? Are we increasing, or is there a cost of our laptops that we've?
well, I'll take the textbook piece and I'll let Amy take the laptop piece. The textbook money that we get from the state actually gets rolled into a textbook reserve until we need to do an adoption. So when they update I'll just use social studies as the example. When they update the curriculum standards for the state, they will also come out with recommended textbooks. I think the board went through the benchmark selection for language arts. So your textbook money really just rolls into a reserve until you need to expend it on one of those big textbook adoptions.
And as a reminder, we just dipped into that reserve at the end of last fiscal year to purchase new textbooks at the end of last fiscal year.
That was the benchmark.
That was benchmarked.
Yes.
And maybe some history.
Yeah, there were some other
elementary
smaller,
social
yes.
studies.
But we'll have to dip into it again for math in another year, correct? Does the math end?
Potentially, yes. I will address the technology piece of it. You'll notice on the front page, line 23, of the governor's calc tool, there's the technology VPSA. And you'll see the state share and then the local share. That's exactly the same on the second page, which is line 45. That's restricted money, and that is, can only be used on student technology purchases. So that is what we are using to buy our Chromebooks and devices for our students. Our staff technology comes out of a separate operating. So that VPSA money is only allowed for student access to technology.
Other questions? So, I have a few more. So last year, we used $2 million of coronavirus money. So if the ask is only 5.53, and that's baked into our operating expense, right? How are we planning to backfill that 2 million? Because it'll dry up. It dried up in September.
We have used all of our ESSER and CARES funding,
So
so.
I'm not,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
what I'm saying is that 2 million we used to cover payroll for 2 months,
Yes.
right? So that's why I was asking you for the position savings, because how are we planning to backfill that 2 months of payroll going forward in the next fiscal year? Without asking city for an additional money. Otherwise, the operating expenses should have changed. Am I making sense?
The request that you see before you of the additional $5.5 million, that's as a result of not having those revenues to cover those expenses. So we are asking that in a local Fund 1 request. So if we still had some of that funding, our ask to the city would be $2 million less because we would be able to utilize that on salaries.
Good.
Does that make sense?
It doesn't, but I can talk to you privately, but to me, my base is $10 last year, right? And I'm increasing my salary to $11, so the dollar is extra, and that's what that 5.3 million is. It takes minimum wage from 15 to 17. It takes the salary from 47,000 last year to 50,000, right? It increases their base by 3%. So these things are on top of what we had in the operating budget for this year. Am I correct in my statement so far?
Yes, sir.
So these are the monies we need on top of what our actual consumption this year was,
Yes.
right? And that amounts to 5.53 million. Now, our consumption this year included $2 million of coronavirus money to pay 2 months of payroll.
Yes, sir.
But this money doesn't have that 2 million backfill yet. So that's why I'm asking, where will that backfill come from?
You saying we should have asked for 7,
Took all those positions.
7.5?
So, or there are unfilled positions,
Yeah.
you use that money to backfill that money.
Let Dr. Wodecook.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry, we took, all of those positions out of Fund 5 that were all grant funds, or grant positions that were those ESSER funds. We put them into Fund 1, which is what you see here. And then what you're seeing at that 5.5 is the net of the new costs plus what we have in the new revenues. So
So you moved them out of grant into
in
operating?
this present fiscal year, so they're already baked in.
They're built
to
in.
the
Yeah,
base cost.
really is. It's in there.
Am I saying that right?
Yes.
It's as clear as mud.
I think he's still trying to.
Yeah, he's trying
$2
to-
million.
He's still looking for the,
Business professors.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Calculator.
No,
trying to make sure that we are not caught, I don't want to use the term with down, later on when we approve the budget and we don't have the money. And then we go into the RIF and other things to find that money. We need
Well,
to.
that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
What's going to have to happen if they don't give the money, and they're already professed that they're not going to. So we're gonna have to work around it, because if they don't give the money, we don't have the funds, and we're gonna go through a RIF. That's the answer.
Is the problem the administration side or the city council side?
As to where we get the money, that's from city council. We have no control over that. It's all what they give us, and we have to deal with that. We can show them the need, and hopefully we'll be able to do that when we have the group meeting. And if they don't, then we have to figure out a way to make things work with what is provided.
Why don't we come up with some things that we have to do if it doesn't work, so we can share both with them?
That's what I've been trying to do since
do
I've been
that.
on the board.
That's great.
Everyone wants to wait to see what they're going to give us. Doesn't mean that we couldn't be working on that. And I've come up with a number of different ideas. And the response has been, let's just ask for more money. And we have not done our job of saying what's going to happen if we don't get the money.
I have an idea. At the joint council school meeting, we can give them 4 scenarios, and they can choose which ones that,
That's a great idea, but that's still an ask. When it comes down to what they're going to give us, we have to work within that budget. We can stomp our feet and pull out our hair and cry and moan and all that other stuff. But what's going to happen is we're going to get X. If we need Y, we're not, and we don't get it, we're going to have to work with X.
okay.
Your idea is great. It's sound. We've gone through a number of different times. We've had a number of sample budgets over the past year and a half. We've had great ideas, and we've been given a number that doesn't meet what we think we need.
I think the motive for having a joint meeting of us with city council is that we can get that kind of feedback from them earlier in the process than we have in the past.
Absolutely. 81.5% of our budget is salary.
Yeah.
And that's, with the remaining 18.5%, we can't cut facilities. We just can't do that. It's going to have to come from personnel.
And for the joint, I have heard that they like to do a leadership meeting, but I'm personally against it. To me, we need to meet the whole body on both sides together,
Yes.
sooner than later.
Yeah,
It should have been yesterday, but maybe tomorrow. Because I'm personally, and I'm just putting it out on record for camera, I'm not interested in closed-door meetings now. Let's have an open, candid discussion. Where do we stand? Where we are going from here on. And to me, it's very important for the public to know where we stand. So I'm against any leadership meetings for the budget. It needs to be a joint meeting where the whole body from that side and this side can come together and discuss all the alternatives. Because the time is very short. It's end of almost middle of January, we're rolling into February, March. If we have to make tough decisions, we cannot make them overnight. We're dealing with, as Mr. DePaul says, 85% are personnel costs. And there's not much flexibility there. I can understand, I hear again and again the enrollments are down, but you gotta understand the IEP numbers are same or rising. Behavior numbers are same or rising. Those are students where the private schools don't need them, don't want them. You tell me one single private school who's going to take an intense behavior student. So they are left for Lynchburg City Schools. I'm glad they are coming to Lynchburg City Schools. We're willing and able and capable of taking care of them, but it requires personnel. Sometimes it requires 2-to-1. Sometimes it requires 1-to-1. So declining enrollment is one variable, but this equation has multiple other variables which require to take care of that kid. That could be your kid, my kid, his kid, or somebody's grandkid. And their needs are growing. I don't want to sound like a school or district of last resort. That's what public education is turning into. Those who wanted and could afford private education have gone for that. Now it's left for the poor kids to stay in the school district or with high needs. And it's our moral, ethical, and legal responsibility to take care of them. So to me, resources are needed. You cannot feed a family with an empty bank account. Is it, Mr. DePaul, an unwise statement?
That's a wise statement. I don't know where it applies here, but it's a wise statement.
Yeah, Mr. Gupta.
Very
you should say that
profound.
At the joint meeting, perfectly safe. Same thing at the joint meeting.
At the joint, I think it's wise though for all of us to meet at the joint meeting because the leaders aren't the only ones making the decision. It takes all of us, so we should all be there.
So let me propose I'm not a motion guy, but I will make a motion that any future meetings with the city I propose that we should have a joint meeting as soon as possible.
Second.
I second that.
Mr. Tinsley, any discussion on that? We need to have a meeting, Dr. Tinsley, sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
Colonel.
Yeah, we're sitting here talking about options, and I agree to Mr. DePaul's point. We need to have options. I mean, you don't go into a battle with one plan. You go into with multiple courses of action ready to affect change as needed. However, the way we're making decisions is very siloed. We're over here as a school board and LCS trying to make decisions while city council's over here, and there's really not been, in my tenure here, there's not been a lot of communication across the way. We haven't even had our joint meeting yet. We need to get together in a room where we can talk through these issues, parry and bounce ideas off of one another, and come up with a solution. When we all leave the room, we know what course of action we're going to be working on. We've not had that yet. So we can come up with 17 courses of actions, 4 or 17 or 100. And if they don't like one of those or it's not in line with what they're thinking, it's pointless and the work has been less than profitable. So I would say, yes, joint meeting as soon as possible so we can talk this out.
Dr. Day and I co-signed a letter to the city council. Dr. Day, would you like to
It
elaborate?
was to the former mayor and vice mayor. It wasn't to city council as a whole.
But to have a joint meeting as soon as possible. We understand the change of leadership, but to me, it's essential, it's very important, it's necessary to have that meeting.
Response?
Say it again?
What was their response?
None.
They didn't respond.
Probably because there's the.
There's-
change of the
Yeah,
guard.
there's a new mayor and new vice mayor now.
Yeah, so.
It still could have been scheduled.
Yeah.
We don't have a regular 2-time-a-year scheduled meeting
We
with,
do, the October one got canceled.
got
and
moved in
our next
November,
one's
and
in
then
March.
was-
The last time we met was last March.
I would like to say, in the defense of the administration, that I don't think what has been prepared and presented us to here is as being as presumptuous as you would suggest. I don't think we're saying, we're assuming they're gonna give us whatever we want. I think this is just not knowing how they will react. This is what our initial assessment of our needs are. And I think that this is done in the recognition that there will be interaction with the city. This is a starting place. And I think, I don't want what's been said to be viewed as an accusation of the administration for being presumptuous about what the city's gonna give us. It's just saying, here's our assessment of our needs. That's where we can begin with our conversation with the city. But I think we do need, I agree with what everyone is saying, that we need to tell the city we really want a joint meeting of both of our bodies, not just a couple people. The problem is, if there was two people from us and two people from them get together, well, that's only 2 out of 7 down there, and that doesn't represent a majority. They can say, we think one thing, and then they get together with the full council meeting, and the will of the council is somewhat different. We need the whole body involved, both there and here.
Yep, absolutely.
Dr. Tinsley?
And as many people as there are, everybody's gonna say things differently, and they're gonna hear things differently. And
Yes.
so unless all of us can be there to point out what the pluses and minuses are, then people are not gonna hear all of those different perspectives. So I agree with you. I think it's critical that the majority of us are there so that they can spell those things out. Because just asking for an amount of money off the top of your head, I mean,
That won't work.
we're gonna all say no. I mean, if your kid or your husband or wife asks you for X amount of dollars, you're probably just gonna be like, nah, not today. But if they can point out some reasons why it's critical that money is provided, because they are not educators. They are not as well versed about the needs of the children that go to Lynchburg City Schools. And unless some of us are there to provide what those needs are and what those difficulties and challenges that teachers have as well as students have, how are they gonna know? That's what our job is.
So there's a motion on the floor, correct?
To write a letter to the city that would like to have that meeting.
Yes.
We cleared up January 21st from our schedule.
I would like it to be worded a little bit stronger than
Could you,
that we feel strongly that we need a joint meeting as soon as possible.
Is there amended motion?
That, if you like, I move that we amend the motion to say it that way. Good, yes.
I don't have any wording to add, but I will say, in the spirit of the meeting, in the past meetings that we've had, it seems, or at least appears to be, us making a presentation.
Yeah.
It's just a show and tell situation, right?
Yeah.
To Dr. Tinsley's point, is that if we do have the joint meeting, it needs to be a working meeting where we actually work on these numbers.
Yes.
And talk about what our needs are, right? And have the clear air as to what exactly are we trying to accomplish, and will they work with us on giving us the
And what are the
money, right?
challenges?
Yeah.
Right. And instead of, in the past, we got 2 hours with them, and the first hour is a presentation, and then it's really just popping circumstance, right? Like, it just looks
With some
good.
nitpicking.
Right, right. So, if when the meeting happens, it needs to be where we roll up our sleeves, we expect them to roll up their sleeves, and we actually have a true meeting, and we work together, work on these numbers, and not just, they ask us for something, we give it to them, and then we pray that they give us what we want, So I'm in agreement with all of you guys, absolutely. So,
Structure could be decided. This is just my personal opinion. I'm not interested in closed-door meetings. I'm done with them. To me, let's discuss it all together. Time is short. We got to take care of these kids. And Dr. Tinsley, go ahead.
To get to your point, whatever we say in the letter and how we word it, I think I speak for the majority, if not all, of the school board members when I say this. I think my feelings are shared on this. My spirit is one of cooperation. That's not a political statement. I'm not trying to get elected. I don't need to be elected. We're appointed. My spirit is cooperation. To your point, I want come to this meeting, roll up our sleeves, look, not have it be a format of an inquisition or an interview or anything like that, but we're together of one accord, pulling in the same direction. Let's figure this thing out, and let's work together to come up with a solution. I think that's what I'm hearing you, and you particularly say, as I've had other conversations, that's what I hear. That's what we want. We want to cooperate. We want to come together as a team and figure this thing out.
We have figured out our basic needs are about $5.53 million
Right.
this year, right?
Right.
These are basic needs, not fancy.
Right.
Basic needs. So in joint meeting, before we walk out, we want to know, are we going to fund that $5.53 million in next year's operating budget?
Question.
I want to know.
Dr. Copeland, I have
A
a
couple of
question.
people sitting here biting their tongues, I want to know.
Well, I just want to clarify that the total increase request to the budget is more in line with 6.8. We're only asking 5.5 from the city because we got additional funds from the
That's
state.
what-
So I just wanted to clarify the increase of budget would be to 6.8 million.
And just to clarify, I think you've already said this, but just to make it clear for everyone again, there's no fluff in this. This is basic needs with inflation, et cetera.
This is bare bones. This is very
This is what we need.
conservative.
You're asking for what we need.
Well, we're asking for less than what we need
Right.
because there are a lot of discussions that I had out at the schools that they need some more stuff. But we just can't ask for that, that
We've
amount
already
of
trimmed
money.
the fat off the tree.
It's as trimmed as we're gonna get.
So
That's a good scenario.
so my scenarios would be called, first one is bare bones, second one is trimmed fat, the third one would be fluff, and the fourth one would be,
Fat.
something that would, would be raceway, basically, something that help us to run fast, right? So we should have an ask, or at least the option of, okay, if you're willing to do this, well, this would help us even more than what we're asking for. But my question is for Dr. Day. I didn't catch the reason why there has to be an extra step other than telling them this is our next meeting time because we didn't have one last time. I didn't perceive any obstacle to having a joint meeting. Have you?
They just don't want to.
I haven't heard that.
Well, it's in March,
Well,
right?
and the October one was canceled because the superintendent changeover, and then they knew that an election was coming.
We're asking is for an earlier one,
Earlier than March.
as soon as possible.
And we haven't heard back from that, correct?
They said no at the.
They said
fall.
no?
And so now we're trying to get one before March.
Okay, from a new city council.
Yes.
But
we should
instead
just
of,
ask.
instead of us arguing about where we disagree, in my opinion, we agree that we want what's best for the kids in our community. We agree that we want what's best for our city. So our approach should be that. We want to meet with you because we want to do what's best for our kids, and we want to do what's best for our city. We're willing to hear your perspective. Please understand that we've cut our budget as best as we can, and perhaps if it's necessary, we might need to cut it a little bit more. But if we really want what's best for our kids and for our city, this is what we need to have. You know, you help us do that.
It's the spirit of cooperation. That's what
Somebody, I saw something where it showed that each year since 2018, we've gotten a lower percentage of the total budget. And I think we need to emphasize that.
We should, because they have told us that we've given more money over time.
Was that something you put out, Dr. Day, where we're now? Yeah, we need to get a higher percentage of the budget.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think it's very persuasive for us to say, you should give us more money because of these percentages based on past. It needs to be based on what we need to do as a
In
school.
order to make.
I think if we're just trying to make them, shame them into giving us more money, I think that's
Gaslight
wasted.
city
So I'm saying we're asking for $44 million,
Mr.
an increase from $41 million and some change, when we really need $48 million.
Yeah.
Now, what we need to take into account is they have people on city council, they're pretty smart, they can see numbers too. When we're faced with a situation, as an example, what we just saw at one of our last meetings, how we can take the students at T.C. Miller and move them to other places across the city closer to home And it would save, because we would be able to remove some positions. We haven't done it. If we can consolidate our alternative ed and restorative programs in one place, we're going to be saving money, but we haven't done it. So what's happening here is they're seeing us dilly-dallying around, sitting on our hands, not doing anything, when some very blatant corrections can be made and be provided with an opportunity to save money. We're not doing it. So yes, if we make some changes, we're going to be able to save. Their response has been, every time we save, they cut the budget. So it's a balance between our two entities that, the way I see it, is that we haven't done things that we can do. Closing Sandusky, there's a lot of ways that we can make things more cost effective. It's going to cost jobs. We can't take the teachers and move them someplace else. If we consolidate the students from those two schools, let's just start with T.C. Miller. If we can consolidate them to other locations, we saw that it works. We have the programs with Dr. Wodeka and Dr. Copeland, and we saw that it will work, and we haven't done it. We have pushed that, we've kicked that can down the road, and before that, most of us were on this board. So we're not doing our job in that one area. But in other areas, we are recognizing where there's a need, but we're not being, we're falling short in the areas that we have control over.
And Daryl, two things. They've been giving us less because more kids have been leaving the schools and going to private schools.
I understand.
So our numbers are dropping. The other point is opposite of his point to an extent. If we consolidate and save money, in my mind, no teacher should lose their job. Because those children have not disappeared into thin air. They're going somewhere, and wherever they're going, there's more of a populace. Take those teachers and send them with those children, because we're gonna need them. So no one should be losing their job.
Dr. Day and then Mr.
I think Mr. DePaul's point addresses another aspect of having a joint meeting,
Absolutely.
which is for us to hear from them
Yes.
why they are not responsive
Right.
to our
Yes.
requests.
Exactly.
We've been thinking about why aren't they responsive to our requests? We're thinking about our interests. We need to recognize they have interests too. They have limited funds. Any money they allocate to us is something they can't allocate to other things that they deem important. So it's a joint meeting also means we need to listen to the message that they have to send us. Now, if you've been paying attention to what the new mayor said on WLNI yesterday, is he's saying we need to close 2 schools. Now, if we have a joint meeting, we can expect, if that is indeed the will of the full council, we can expect them to say to us, don't come asking for this until you do something in that direction, which is what Mr. DePaul's point is.
Or, we'll do this if you give this. That
No.
might be equal.
No, that's-
Because, no, in a comprehensive plan. This is the plan. If you fund us with 48 million or whatever, then this is what we'll do.
Well, the reason I say no is because that's kicking it down the can down the road.
How?
Because you're saying, well, if, no, we've had this time to do something, we haven't done it yet. And that's
No,
what he's trying to say. We need to do it first, then the if can come in. Now that we've done this, if we can give.
That
you
is
this
one
or
way.
this one.
That is one way to do it. I also thought that it's not in our benefit or our, is it a need or in our
Best interest.
best interest to give them a bare bones budget? Why should they even know what the bare bones budget is? We're simply trying to make sure that we have absolutely all our ducks covered or in a row. And what is the benefit of showing the absolute bottom number? Whenever anyone does that, for me, whether it's selling a piece of some merchandise or something, I'm always looking at, okay, if that's what it'll go for, if that's your best offer, great, I'll take that. So it really seems to be giving them opportunity to say, okay, that's the lowest, okay, great, that's what you get. Because you can survive with that.
Mr. Chairman, would you restate the motion that's on the floor?
You had the subject, could you, that, it's,
I got one more comment, though. Back to what do we need to do? If we go to this, we have this joint meeting with the city council, and they bring up, you haven't closed the 2 schools you promised to close. Are we in a position to,
See, Mr. Connor, the problem with closure is, this board voted to close schools, but then you got politicians and some school board members looking for claps and asking, we'll find the money for you. We'll have the money for you. So there should not be dual conversations.
right?
It should be single lane, that's what we are doing. And that's important, to have the joint meeting where we come up with a consensus opinion. This is what we are doing. And that's why the cans have been kicked down the road, because you hear multiple voices. You tell me, if you hear multiple voices, the people get confused and they clap for one and throw stones at the other one. So it has to be a uniform, single voice, and that's important. And when we come out of the joint city council meeting, we all are walking what we talked there.
And that's why it's so important to have that meeting soon, so that we can have this conversation, so that when we come out of that meeting, whatever we need to do, we have time to do it.
Let's call for a vote on the resolution then. The resolution is to ask the city council to have a joint meeting as soon as possible,
Yes.
okay?
Strong words.
And to Mr.
I second.
Mr. Connor, understand, last year they did give us money to keep those 2 schools open for a year, and that's it. This is the year.
That money was.
That money never, I didn't see where they came from. They never came
It
to
was a
ours.
contingency reserve money, the real dollars never came.
No real dollars came.
Yeah, it was just a.
that's what I thought.
Thought they found
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah.
It was, the money will be released to us if we need it.
But again, to Dr. Day's point, let's be real clear. I don't think we're casting stones, nor do we need to. There's a reason why that money never came. That money was probably used somewhere else for something great, right? But we need to have this discussion so that we know where everybody stands and where we're going to go jointly as a council/school board when we leave that meeting. That's the point. It's not to cast stones. It's not to point fingers. It's to pull in the same direction on that rope.
And I don't want to
Or our
sound like a
kids.
whiny kid who didn't have his coffee in the morning, but I've been saying that, and Mr. Hand is my witness. Last year, we had $15 million of surplus. $15 million of surplus. Lynchburg City Schools got zero.
Yep.
ZERO, $0. Right? This year again, we got surplus. How much of that money? So to me, and I've said that privately and I'm making it public, please stop treating this child treatment. Stop picking on city school system. Let's work together to do good for these kids. That's very important. We gotta take care of the most precious asset any parent, grandparent has. That's their kids. And I think our staff are doing day in, day out, reasonably above average job. In my mind, excellent job, but in Nair's mind, maybe above average job. So let's keep them doing what they need to do. And for them to performance their job, they need resources. Teachers are buying supplies from their pocket. That's not good. One of the teachers, 3 days ago, I was talking to her. She said, I don't mind buying supplies. But the point is, the school system should be able to do that. So I can go on a laundry list of resources which we need. Let's call for the vote, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Mrs. Preston,
Yes.
Mr. Jabal.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Dr. Chase.
Yes.
Dr. Day, would you kindly draft that letter, please, sir?
Does the whole board want to see it before we
Yeah,
send
let's
it?
do that, yeah. Thank you. Ad hoc Superintendent Search Committee, Dr. Day.
Actually, sir, I'm going to need you to vote on whether I can deliver these numbers to the city. They are actually waiting on them as we
Would
speak.
you make a motion?
Wait a second.
For tomorrow.
I move that we authorize our CFO to deliver these numbers to the city.
I would like to discuss,
Well, I would second that.
Once the motion is on the floor, we'll
I'll
discuss.
second it first.
Or discussion.
is this what we want to deliver to the city already, the bare bones version of every?
This is, remember that this is only a starting place. This isn't our
Yes.
final
Where did-
budget.
Where does that
It's
come
not
from?
the end.
That's the way the budget process works.
Yeah, we did this last year.
We're not, okay, but we haven't met with have you met with the city council leadership for this?
The way the process works is we submit some initial numbers. They look at them, then we enter a period of interaction and discussion with city council. We're not at that point yet. We're just submitting our initial numbers.
So you're submitting the initial bare bones numbers, right?
Yeah.
The numbers that you see before you, yes.
I think what FJ is saying is he wants it a higher number, so if we have to negotiate down.
But we did that last year and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
We're not,
Look,
let's
look,
not repeat that.
Last year.
May I?
That was a nightmare.
Last year was not.
If you don't want us to submit these numbers, vote no when the vote on this motion
Well, I'm
comes.
discussing part of it. Why would we, this is part of the initial process, yes, but why are we giving the bare bones initial? I mean, this is not, how are we gonna negotiate up from this, if this is all, if this is what we're saying, that's all we need?
So we talked about this in finance. They have a retreat coming up on Thursday. It's just preliminary draft stuff. So when we give them their numbers, the budget process is usually over the spring, right? And so there's a lot of us meeting back and forth with them, going over numbers, that sort of stuff. Like this just gives them an idea of what we're thinking in terms of calc tool, what comes from the state, what our local match should be, what we're asking them for. I don't know if that makes any sense. So it doesn't mean anything per se. It's really just us telling them, hey, this is what we have an idea about, and giving it to them.
Could do
I
this.
think what Mr. Jalil, and I might halfway agree with him, you said there's a lot of requests from the schools that we did not include in here because we're trying to submit a number that we think will be closer to getting. So let's say if the schools that you didn't add was, say, $1 million of stuff that they think that they need in the schools, we said, let's not put it in here so it doesn't inflate the number. We're saying, why don't we put it in here and let the city say, no, we're not gonna give you that, rather than say, give us 5.5 million, when the budget may allow for 6.5 million, but we didn't ask for it because we said we didn't need it. But the schools feel they need those to provide quality education.
First impressions. Perhaps this is the mistake we've been making consistently, that they're getting this and then we're only going up from there, whereas we're not giving them the room to go down from a number that includes all those other things. So if we just give them all, even if it's not detailed numbers, but just the categories of all those schools and all their asks and approximates, that would help us, I think, to give a better impression. Oh, this is a bigger piece of the pie of the entire Lynchburg city system than you perceive.
So can I provide a little context at this point of the discussion?
Yes,
As these requested new monies are heavy in payroll, salaries, and increases, and a little bit of people. The next level, which is really what the schools get to, is replacing all the positions we just took away from them on June 30th last year. I don't think that's a realistic ask, that you go in and ask for the money to replace all of the positions that you had to remove from your budget the year before, because that puts at risk getting the money for the pay raises. And I definitely prioritize the money for the 3% pay raise, the $17 and the $50,000, and the step increases over adding 4 teachers at a school or replacing a kindergarten aide or things like that, because they are working with the reductions that they have right now, and that will cause your request to balloon significantly, which from my perspective is an unrealistic ask.
I like that. So to make it more consolidated, why don't we just give this as is, but with a sentence or two that simply says, and this is what happened last year that will come up in the near future as a part of our discussion of the needs that may help us to overcome those losses. Because I think we talked about, did we cut 100 positions? Was that what we have done versus the city cutting very little in compared
I think it started in the hundreds and it ended up down around 59 or 65,
Okay.
somewhere in there.
All right.
But where we need to hold the line later on will be, I understand this is bare bone, if, and I'm using a big capital if there's a school closure, those savings will be retained by the school board and will not be backfilled into this ask. Does that make sense? So this, any savings we, if there is a school closure, I'm not saying there will be a school, if there is a school closure, any savings associated with that will not be used for backfilling this $5.53 million. That's the bare bone.
Yeah.
And those monies will be used for what the schools need or the other needs which have been outstanding for a long time.
We're talking about retaining any savings that we get from any school closures or consolidation.
Or let me, not closure, let me use Mr. DePaul's word, any savings from efficiencies
Efficiencies, yes.
we attain will be retained by the school district without backfilling this $5.53 million. Dr. Tinsley.
I mean, I like this proposal just simply because Dr. Copeland and his team are playing their cards above the table. You know, they're saying this is what we've done some hard work ahead of time, and this is what we believe we need to make things happen next year. We can't go lower than this. We could go higher than this, but we can't go lower than this. This is what we need. I think that's an honest approximation. I think we send up to City Council, we can do that with integrity. I like it.
The way I see it is this is the status quo plus
Some salary increases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just saying it's a status quo doesn't mean it's all sufficient. It just means this is where we are now with the salary increases. And then what other things need to be part of this? It should be part of the discussion with the city.
That's great. I like that. I like this part of the discussion because I learned a good argument for that. So thank you for your input,
Madam Rowe,
Superintendent.
good? Let's call for the roll.
Ready to vote.
Mr. Connor,
Yes.
Mr. Julio.
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Dr. Day.
Yes?
Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Mrs. Preston.
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie.
Yes.
Dr. Tinsley.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. 25-26 school year calendar, Dr. Copeland. What happened? Did I miss anything?
Search committee.
Oh, Superintendent Search Committee, Dr. Tinsley.
I think the last time I updated, we were waiting for the signatures from all those that needed to sign the contract with M&J, our consulting firm. Those signatures have been obtained, and so this Friday, the co-chair and I, Dr. Mike Nillis, are going to meet just with a preliminary logistics types meeting with McPherson and Jacobson, just to kind of get that ball rolling, make some introductions, set up our first meeting with our superintendent search committee, and then with stakeholders after that. So things are moving forward. I won't say they stalled, but they slowed down significantly over the holidays. People on vacation, you can understand that. But as of this Friday, the ball will be picked up and we'll start moving forward, I'm sure, very, very quickly at that point. So that's where we are.
Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you, sir. 25-26 school calendar year, Dr. Copeland.
I'll introduce this one, and then Dr. Wodica can jump in. This comes back to you tonight for action based off of what you saw at the December meeting. The next year's calendar closely mirrors the current calendar we're executing. And just to put a plug in for Ms. Phillips, she would love to get to a point in the future that we do calendars in 2-year iterations. So that would be the next focus, is that really come late fall, less than a year from now, you get 2 years' worth of calendars to look at. Any questions? And Dr. Wodica's.
You did an excellent job.
Thank you.
This is a second read. Board has discussed that before, Mrs. Lowry.
On that, for the Academic Success Committee viewpoint, since the school board can assign like PD, I saw that you had the 8th and the 11th and the 16th of January, August 8th and 11th and January 16th as PD days. So there are some things I'll have to take it through the Academic Success Committee to reserve for some PD, just brief speaking.
Yes, ma'am. So Dr. Davis manages the PD schedule, so I'm sure she'll be working with you, and so I'm sure she'll get that feedback.
You good?
I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was near the top of the calendar. It says Independence Day instead of Independence, spelled.
Check the spelling.
We'll spell check.
It sure does, doesn't it?
Okay, good.
Sorry about that. Yep.
Good catch.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? There's a motion to approve.
Yeah, I move we approve the
Dr. Day and
proposed
Mrs. Lowry.
calendar.
Would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Mr. Jail,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews.
Yes.
Dr. Day,
Yes.
Dr. Gupta.
Yes.
Mrs. Preston.
Yes.
Mr. DePaul.
Yes.
Mrs. Lawrence.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Motion carries.
School Security Officer Program, Dr. Copeland.
I'm gonna turn this one over to Dr. Bodeka, and
Yes, sir.
Yes, take
Good
it away.
evening, members of the board. Thank you, Dr. Copeland. I want to introduce Mr. Nick Caputo, who's our coordinator of school safety and emergency management here in Lynchburg City Schools. We've had our school security officer program up and running for now a couple years now. We wanted to provide some updates on where we are with the program, some of the successes that we've had, as well as some of the future directions we'd like to go in. We feel really strongly that this has been a very, very valuable and very successful program. We have more to do in the future to continue to make this program the best it can be. As I think you'll find, as Mr. Caputo goes through the presentation, that Lynchburg is very quickly becoming sort of the model of the SSO programs in the state. We're getting a lot of folks reach out to us from the state and say, hey, what is Lynchburg doing and how are you making it successful? And so we'll outline some of those things tonight, as well as some of the areas we want to continue to improve in the future. So turn it over to Mr. Caputo.
Hey, thanks for having me, and I appreciate it. I have some toys for everybody, so if you just take one and pass it around, and then I'll get on with my presentation.
Challenge coin.
That's right. Okay, so real quick overview, we're gonna talk about a staffing update for us, our training programs, Operation Guardian Angel, which is the coins you have going around right now, and then some key accomplishments throughout this past year, and then future directions. Understand that some of the things that I'm telling you may be a little vague, because if it's talking about security operations, I'm not gonna talk about it in a public forum, okay? All right, so if we'll go on to the next one. So for staffing, currently we have one vacancy. And out of approximately 100 applicants, 6 of those applicants were hired as security officers. It's a very strict criteria for what we do. All right, there's a long list of training. The only thing that's required to be a school security officer is the 16-hour certification course. I'm one of the instructors for that with DCJS. In addition to that, every 2 years you have to attend 16 hours of training, and that could be anything from CIT training to threat assessment, all kinds of different things. If you look on the list, and I'll just hit on it briefly because you can read probably faster than I can read it to you. But we go from mental health training for bully prevention and intervention, obviously safety and security for school bus drivers. That's something that we teach to the bus drivers, and we work with Hope Watts on that. And then medical emergencies on school grounds, behavioral threat assessment, stop the bleed, first aid training. We assist with the nurses with that too if they want to do that, but I'm a stop the bleed instructor, and I also have another staff member that is. And then all of my officers are Revive Narcan certified, and we carry Narcan on us. So there was an incident that happened in Amherst County where there was a baggie that had some stuff in it, and so we're prepared for that should that ever happen here. Okay. And then every single one of our officers is crisis intervention training, CIT training, which is one of the things that we talked about with having make sure that all the SROs are CIT trained as well. And then they go through MANT certification, active shooter emergency response, emergency evacuation procedures, bomb and threat, active training, or active threat training, and then the standard response protocol, which is something put out by DCJS, and the standard reunification model, which is what we've already incorporated here. They all go through Raptor emergency management training because we've really, really wrapped our arms around Raptor, and it's become our foundation for what we do here. And it has everything from visitor management to volunteer management and then emergency management as well. And then one of the programs that we created was the chain of command, who has authority in the schools. And this has really been beneficial to matching the personalities of the SSOs with the personality of the principal at the school that they're assigned. And it develops a working relationship with them and bridges the gap between I need to keep the students safe, but we also need to keep with what the principals are trying to do in the schools. And they work together, and it's been a great program. They go through firearms qualification and camera operations for our camera systems, and then gang awareness training. There's quite a few gangs in Lynchburg that not many people know about. And then based on what we talked about with the Narcan, we also have a program that we're going to be working with Lynchburg Police Department with their vice unit with fighting fentanyl and other dangerous street drugs, because they need to be aware. We have teachers that will find a substance and they'll stick their fingers in it right away without gloving up and things of that nature. So Okay, so positive behavioral interventions and supports. This is what we're talking about, Operation Guardian Angel. This is something that I created, talking about with AAA, they sponsor the safety patrol. They'll give us belts and sashes and everything else. And having the military background and the law enforcement background, challenge coins was something that you awarded to someone when they did a really good job and recognition. And these are the coins that the kids get. So anybody that's on safety patrol, if they act above and beyond, or they have an anti-bullying, see something, say something. One student in particular started creating sort of her own safety patrol training, and that was at Bedford Hills. And she went in and started just mentoring the other safety patrol officers. And so we made sure that we recognized that. As a parent, I can tell you, I'll go emptying out a book bag at the end of the year and find some certificate that my kid got, and he never thought to tell me. And it gets crumbled up and forgotten about. But a challenge coin, we take their picture, the challenge coin and gets given to the kids, and it's something hard and physical that they can then go show, and it's kind of neat. Well, the challenge coin, that picture gets put on the school's website, and it redirects the parents to our safety webpage that we've created, which then educates them and makes them aware of our safety procedures, our reunification methods, our contact method, all kinds of different links on that page. And then there's the coin. Sadly, I'm going to ask you back for the coins unless you hold your breath and change colors on me. There are a few staff members that have received a coin for going above and beyond. I think one of them is in the room. He's very proud of it. And he likes to let everybody know that he has a coin and they don't. I know you're still working on one.
Still working on it.
So, but it's great. It's a great incentive program, and it was sponsored by the school, so it was great. So we continue to grow and contribute to the safety and security for LCS. We've improved communication equipment. I can really give you a quick explanation of that. Every school has its own radios, but we don't have radios for the SROs or the SSOs that has every school's frequency on it. So when you went from one school to another, you had to try to beg, borrow, and steal a radio to communicate with that school. Something as simple as this radio can carry 25 frequencies, so let's get all the frequencies programmed into it. We then took that handheld radio, connected it to the bus dispatchers, and it has an emergency beacon button on it, just like a P25 radio that the police department would use. So it also increases the safety of our officers and principals and things like that. That's just one quick example of how we've improved that level of communication. Visitor management practices and procedures, we've standardized that across the board and created manuals that didn't exist. And I could go through every single thing, but just know that we've done unified crisis management plans across the division, starting with a division plan and disseminating that out, and drill procedures and improved threat detection and evaluation. The list just goes on and on and on. And I know you've got a long night ahead of you after me, so I'm not going to go through every single thing, but it's hard for me to not brag about what we've done. Thank you. So our key accomplishments, I'm proud to say that LPD consider us a big ally. And just in December, LPD called up and said, how's your staffing today with your SSOs? I said, we're great. Why? What's up? I've got 2 SROs that called out. Is there any way you guys could help cover those schools? And we said, absolutely. So they look for us. They like having us there. When we've had threats in schools, our SSOs have gone in and helped with the investigation, and just we're firing off. We're going there. They know the schools. They know the students. They know the teachers, and it's improved everywhere it possibly could. It's been great. And at the start of the school year, we did a division-wide reunification training. We couldn't shut everything down, but when we had the teachers here during a professional development day, we went to EC Glass, and I worked with Hope Watts, and she had the buses go to each school and pick up the staff. And each school had to dedicate an hour. My staff was at EC Glass for about 11 hours, but each school had to dedicate an hour of their training day. They came through and they went through a reunification process and what it would look like. And it was, the response was huge. They loved the fact that it was organized, that we color code our vests. So red is for a reunifier, blue is for check-in, green is for a greeter. So when you direct somebody, when a parent's coming to pick up their kid, they're met first with somebody in an orange vest. That's the parking attendant. They're kind of like a safety cone. And then they say, you need to go talk to somebody with a green vest. They're going to take care of you. The green vest is the greeter. They're going to say, well, you need to go talk to somebody in a blue vest. They're going to check you in. And we're directing those parents and those guardians to where they need to go. The staff went through that, and the biggest thing that I got a positive response from was when we told them that you will not work your own reunification. We will take care of you because you're the affected school. And they thought that was huge. Next slide. Increased collaboration and partnerships with the following. So you see facilities, human resources, finance, IT, the administration, LPD, LFD, LINCOM, which is your emergency communication 911, and then DCJS. It's real easy for me to come in and say, this is what we're going to do, and guess what? You're doing this to help me. And that creates resentment. Oh, now it's one more thing I got to manage. IT, oh, it's one more program that I have to pay for out of my budget because you decided to buy computer software. So going to those people, going to HR, say, can I do this? Can we do that? Hey, finance, can we do this? Can we do that? And creating those partnerships has been a big, big part of my job. All right, so you heard Dr. Wodeka. I call him Reed all the time because we worked a lot. But you heard Dr. Wodeka mention that we're becoming the leader. So we've had people from other schools that have reached out based on DCJS saying, you need to go talk to Nick Caputo over at LCS, or you need to go talk to LCS and see how they're doing it, because they really were the first ones to come in and have stuff set in place before we took it on. We had a lot of meetings, and I mean, I share everything. I share the forms that we've created from scratch that have drop-down menus that make it super easy, the checklists that we've created, our shared files. We do everything, and in turn, other schools are sharing with us. So we're expanding what I would call our sphere of influence, and we're having people reach back out to us and offer things to us. Now, I'm a school security certification instructor, so I certify others, people. When we hired 3 people that needed to be certified, I reached out to DCJS and said, hey, I'm going to conduct this training. Is there anything you want to give me, send to me that's current? I want to make sure I have the proper slides and everything else. DCJS responded through an email that said, actually, we were going to do a statewide training for certification, and we think you'd be a good fit to represent DCJS. So as a result, over at the ITC, we hosted and had 42 people come through the program. I had no idea I was the only instructor. It's a long 2 days for me. But they came from as far away as, well, I should say as close as Halifax, all the way up to Arlington, and came down here, and we certified them and sent them back to their schools. And then when we sent them back, my email was included, and every single one would ping me, hey, could you tell me where you guys got your vests? Could you tell me where you guys are doing this? Could you do? So we're influencing not only public schools, but private schools as well. There were several schools from the Roanoke area that were Christian schools that came to the certification. And then the second to last statement, I'm also serving on an advisory committee to help shape the future of the SSO programs, to say, this is what works for us, this doesn't work for us, this is a major hurdle that we have to try to overcome, and this is our workaround for that. We might want to think about changing this. That's our staff that we have currently. So you have me on the left. I think you know I come from a military law enforcement background. The next person is Christy. She's really unique, and I just want you to get to know them in 2 sentences or less. Christy was the commander of her crisis negotiation unit when she retired from law enforcement, and she also was employed by LCS as special ed teacher. So that's a huge asset for us. And then the next person, Andre, he's great. His entire police career, with the exception of his first 2 years, he's been an SRO. So he's seen the other side of it, and now he's come to our side. And he's great. And he also is a graduate of Heritage High School. The person with the big smile seems to be the favorite among the schools, and that's Steven. He's former law enforcement. He's our youngest, and they do fight over him, over who gets him assigned to them each year. They do like him. He loves the kids. He will ride the bus with students if they got off at the wrong school. He's just a great guy. The next person is Jim. Jim has a unique history. He comes with over 30 years of law enforcement experience in the federal side of the house. And Jim also, he doesn't like when I brag about him, but he's a 7-time world champion black belt taekwondo. So that's pretty neat. And the last one, everybody has a class clown, and that's Dale. And he has a huge background from detective to K-9 to SRO, and he is always happy, always smiling. He's out at Deerington and then over at Linkhorn. And he loves everything he does, and he's always happy. So we have a good staff. All right, future endeavors. We're going to try to get 2 to 3 new school security officer positions to help out with covering the high schools and the middle schools, because we've seen our people get pulled to those locations, as well as Fort Hill. One of you board members, I think it's Miss Lowry, you've been to Fort Hill a lot. I see you a lot on the cameras. You're over there quite often. And you've seen my staff over there. And every single staff member has a day of the week that they're assigned. They check into Fort Hill. If there's no SRO, or not SRO, but LPD officer working that for off-duty, they take that duty assignment. We have 100% coverage of Fort Hill School. All right. State-of-the-art updated visitor management and access control systems. We already have the hardware in place, in stock, I should say, and we're waiting for one thing that's back-ordered. Increased collaboration and training with the local emergency management agencies. We're doing that on a daily basis. We're talking about things that we can do. And then we're working with some local businesses for logistical support for training. And then the last one would be exploring the commission for the CALIA accreditation. Law enforcement agencies are CALIA accredited. It's something they work hard for. It's a very long process. It's a difficult process, but we're going to do it. And we're working with one other school. There's only one that is pre-K through 12 that is CALIA accredited. It's the Hilton, or the Hershey Milton School in Pennsylvania. And we've been talking with them. They've sent us some stuff. They've invited us to come up there. And it's been a great relationship that we're just now forming. Questions?
I have one. We're in a budget process, and I hate to see a great program like this blossom, and then all of a sudden, we don't have no money. So I'd like to know if, because I believe, especially with these different terrorism things that have happened lately, is there grant money, and is there somebody assigned to pursue on a regular basis what available dollars are to continue to make sure this program is continually funded?
Great question. So this program was originally funded by the SSO grant by the state. And so the way that works over time is that provides less and less money over a number of years. So we'll take more and more of that on in responsibility. So we'll continue, and then, so I wrote the original grant. Nick has taken it on.
Yeah, I've taken that over.
Yep.
Actually, more accurate, if you don't mind me saying, it doesn't decrease. Those are DOE grants that decrease. This is a DCJS grant.
Okay.
So it's based on the comparative ability to pay index ratio number, which is 38%, I believe. So it's a reoccurring grant for every 4 years, and we get $31,000 per SSO out of that grant. We get 50, but we have to pay 38% of that, so it gives us $31,000 at the end of the day. And that's what we get. It's a reoccurring grant. We still have to apply for it, but it is a reoccurring grant. It's sort of like, it falls under the same thing as the SRO.
Okay.
So that answers your question.
And do we plan to at some point try to make sure we have at least one assigned to every school?
That is our absolute vision. We just had a 45-minute conversation about budget. Of course, that's continues to be a challenge, but yes, absolutely, we do believe that's.
Then my last thing, it's not even access, but we still need to do some securing, because you can walk out of doors in certain schools and there's nothing that goes off or nothing that triggers anything.
Yep.
That's something we're working on with access control. That's where the relationships that I mentioned about, I'm 4 doors down from Don Floyd.
Okay.
I can almost tell who's walking down the hallway by their footsteps. But I see them on a daily basis, multiple times during the day. And I'm included in these meetings where they're talking about access control, and it's been great. I can tell you it's been great, because they'll pull me in, hey, we were just talking about this, what are your thoughts on this? And well, can we do it this way, or how much would that cost? Is it something we could work into the budget for these capital improvement plans?
Yes, so we have about a $5 million access control upgrade project that is getting ready to go to bid later this month. So.
And that's doors that, because my concern was we were able to walk out of a side door at a school. And I said, a child, there was no triggering, it's just a door that went out to the parking lot. So a child could actually have gone out the same door, and it would be a while before. So that's something that we're looking at.
Oh, absolutely. So complete standardization, complete upgrade of all the locks and keys, and then monitoring of those doors while being moved.
Other questions? Mr. Jerry?
I didn't see I would suggest a partnership with Liberty University because we are doing our graduation with them this year. So you might want to look into that at the end of the semester. Is there a parent safety tip hub?
Oh, I'd have to get back to you on that. I know there is a tip line, and on that safety webpage, security webpage that I mentioned, it is listed there. There are tip lines listed there, and we've received tips from students and other people on that. And it's, again, the relationships. I can't say enough how much everybody's willing to work with us. But I also don't come in and tell them, you have to do it this way, or you have to do this. I come in and say, can you help me with this? Or, hey, I think I can help you with that. And I've actually had IT people call me and say, hey, this just came across. Before it even had a chance to blip up on my radar, they're calling me, hey, I just got this tip of a potential threat. And I was driving down the road coming to one school, and I turned and went to that school. And by the time I got there, the SROs were there, the principal was aware, and we were all on the same page. It was like that. So it's pretty great.
That's good. The more the people know about it, the better.
Exactly.
The opportunity.
And these coins bring awareness to that.
How many schools participate in the Guardian Angel Operation Guardian Angel?
Each SSO has a primary school that is assigned to them, and then they have a secondary school. And I would say in every case, the secondary school, for instance, could be Sandusky Elementary, because Sandusky Middle is 100 feet away, and there's an SRO right there. Lincoln Elementary, Lincoln Middle. Those are their secondary assignments. Their primary assignment would be their other school. So each SSO has 2 schools assigned. If that answers your question.
Very good. Is there any amount of, or any percent of our SRO salaries matched by LPD?
I wouldn't know that answer.
No.
It's all DCGS. Okay.
So there's DCJS grant money and LCS operating.
Not sure. And lastly, did you take a certification photo from your training of everybody?
Or what?
You're 40.
Oh, all 42?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Next year.
Yeah, next year I will.
Big montage.
Other question, Mrs. Lowry?
Will the PD be every year, the professional development for the people will be every year? at the beginning of the
Yes.
school year? Okay.
Yes, and you know, every year is a learning experience. And the schedule with Bass didn't line up this year. So, and I also teach new hire orientation when it comes to the safety and security aspect. And I don't know if you've seen these or not, but every teacher has gotten these. It goes on with their ID cards.
Oh, okay.
And I'll pass this around. You guys can take a look at that. And that's our standard response protocol that I mentioned. And so when they come through new hire orientation, the ones that would have missed the reunification, they're taught it, they just don't get the walkthrough experience.
Okay. I just have one last question and then comment. I was very skeptical of this program, and it was Dr. Vodka brought in, but I'm a fan of you now.
Thank you.
As the more and more I see the SSOs, my question is, when are you going to incorporate Raptor for all the school board members? I'm hearing Nick is doing it. Nick is
Oh,
doing
the work ticket's already been created. I've already been working with IT, and so I went from the top, and they said, okay, it's gonna go to this person, and he's working on it. And then I actually went to Raptor and created a specific, without getting into the geek speak of it, created specific workings to get all the board members their own specific Raptor, because I had to create a group for that. Because there's certain groups that get certain things. Like, part of Raptor is the team assist function. It's not an emergency that needs to evacuate the school, but it goes within the school. So if they're on the playground and a third grader skins their elbow or something, they can go to the Raptor app and say team assist on the playground, and the nature of what it is, medical issue. And we had to determine who would get notified of that, because the principal doesn't necessarily need to get notified. The SRO doesn't need to get notified. The SSO doesn't need to get notified. But the nurse does. Maybe the AP can handle that. And you know, maybe the counselor might want to go out there, depending on who the student is. So it all depended on what the nature of the emergency was, or the situation, and who got the notification of it. So with that as an example, the same thing applies to your Raptor accounts.
That's another great way that Lynchburg is leading the way, because I think Raptor had not considered a profile for a board member that would be there, so that's being built.
You're working on it, right? That's the assurance you're giving.
You should have it pretty quick.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming.
You need these back.
Thank you for all your hard work.
If you want to keep the coin, you can.
I'll keep the coin. It's
Take
pretty
it from
cool.
you. They're highly coveted, I'm not gonna lie. I could guilt you and say you're
He
taking
wants
my
it back?
first student.
I feel like I gotta earn that, so I think you
you
can
gotta
have
earn
it back. Yeah, yeah. But I will earn it if Dr. Brown has one. I had to beat him. Yeah.
No, that one was a specific incident.
Oh,
Keep yours?
okay. We can create incidents.
I feel guilty, but it's a great ball marker.
A ball.
I'll tell you what. He's gonna be upset about this. That one,
Oh, yes.
this one is actually mine. You can have mine. How's that?
Thank you.
The right way to do it is to shake your hand though. There you go.
Thank you.
And I'll give this one to a kid.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next one is Program of Studies, Dr. Copeland.
Dr. Davis, Ms. Kastler, Program of Studies.
Good evening, everybody, and Happy New Year. Ms. Kessler is going to bring around some copies, just the brevity of the document that's attached, so you don't have to go line by line. There are going to be 6 highlighted items she's going to go over, and I specifically just want to say a big thank you to her, our schools for their work on the program of studies. We had several meetings, have been working on this for the last few months. So this is not something that has been put together. I know you guys have had it for the last couple of weeks to review. We have taken all comments and considerations into effect and have made any changes and taken in those suggestions, and we're setting up meetings to make sure that we adhere to those suggestions as well. Ms. Kessler will go through, as again, she has done a great deal of the work with this, with many members of our administration team, our central office team, and many of our educators who have provided input at the school level with the counseling teams as well. So she's going to hit 6 highlights, and what she did is put together something that you could reference and go through fairly quickly, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have for this first read.
Starting with updates to the current program of studies. Just the first update is that in years past, we've always had a separate high school program of studies and a middle school program of studies. And the intro to both of those was very repetitive, so we have combined the two. So we have one Lynchburg City Schools program of studies this year. Moving forward, has all of the general information in it, then it breaks it down by the middle school curriculum program and then into the high school curriculum program. Course offering, to the correct slide. So after that major change-wise, when we're adding the two programs of studies together, middle school course offerings changes, so the middle school course offerings are listed first. Page 17, in the new program of studies, we are going to remove Advanced Algebra 1 and replace that course with Pre-AP Algebra 1. The description for the course is listed there. It will be a year-long course for 8th graders. So we're going to expose our 8th graders to the AP program from College Board. Standards of learning still for 8th grade algebra. So when I was speaking with a middle school counselor earlier today, your 7th graders who are in advanced 7th grade math will most likely move into this pre-AP algebra course for next year. No other changes to the middle school program of studies other than a few changes to course titles. We've gone through and changed where we had drama and theater and just using the terminology of theater, so that may be a change you noticed also. High school course offerings changes on page 51 of the new program of studies. Criminal justice and EMT have always been offered as high school level courses. We're now going to offer them as high school level courses and also dual enrollment. So a student will have the opportunity to get dual enrollment credit for that program. If for some reason they don't want that dual enrollment credit, or if they do not meet the criteria for getting into a CVCC course, they may still remain in the course and take it for high school credit and not earn the dual enrollment credit, but they will have that option so they can earn some college credit through CVCC. Also on page 53, we kept technology foundations and technology transfer. Last year, we did go ahead and add the game design and development and the advanced game design and development as we were implementing that program. The instructor for the game design program was teaching these two program courses, the foundations and the transfer. So that's why we have phased those out so that we can meet the needs of all of the requests for game design. An addition for the high school program of studies is this page 26 under English, the Advanced Placement AP Seminar English. We have offered this course as an English elective to 11th and 12th graders. We will continue to offer it as an elective, but we now are going to offer it as in English. So when students have to take their English 10 requirement, they can get their English requirement by taking this course. Whereas before, they were just getting an elective credit for it, not an English credit. And then only other addition, page 41, we have added ROTC drill back to the program of studies. It was offered years ago. I'm sorry, I don't remember, maybe 2019 was the last year that we offered it for credit, for a PE credit. As you will see, we're going to put that back in since the Virginia House passed that we can let students, their requirement for PE be satisfied by taking that PE drill course. So not a lot of changes. We haven't taken anything out. We've added some great opportunities. What questions do you have for us?
Ms. Lowry, has it been got through the academic success committee?
Email, and Ms. Cruz and I have to talk about the, I'm Dr. Cruz, I'm sorry. Dr. Cruz and I mean Dr. Davis, and I have, oh my gosh. No, I gotta get it straight ahead. About some speakers. So she said we would have to, we'll talk about that later. So probably I'm gonna take that to that.
The way I wanted to do was, let's have a motion. You want this approval, right? And then we can do
Would be
discussion.
wonderful, because the high school counselors are going to start scheduling in another 3 weeks. So if we could have this finalized, that would make our jobs much easier.
You wanted questions?
Yeah, let me ask.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a lot of questions about this, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to ask you to answer all of them on the fly. Maybe what I need to do is communicate some of them to you. But one I want to ask about the algebra change, the one that you highlighted. Now, as I understand it, this is just a change at the middle school level, not at the high school level.
Yes.
And so I realize that what we've been looking at is a draft, but on, it must be page 18, which is, I believe, still the middle school discussion. We still have the former Advanced Algebra 1 listed as a prerequisite for Algebra 2, but you're removing that course. Is this just the editing needs to get caught up with?
This would be added, and they would be able to enter through the Algebra 2 from the prerequisite.
Now, the new course is called Pre-AP Algebra 1.
Yes.
Is the syllabus for this designed by the AP folks?
It's through the pre-AP, coursework, yes.
Are the materials different?
The training process in prep court is slightly different, and this is something that was requested by our middle schools to do. Again, we got a lot of feedback and the direction in preparation for our students and some of the coursework that they were going into, this was the request.
It's still, the original Algebra 1 is still offered at the high school level,
Yes.
however. But I noticed that also at the high school level, there were pedal versions of these courses that have been scratched out. This must be, let me see if I can find the right page number for you. It's page 33. At the bottom, there were Advanced Algebra 1 and Advanced Algebra 2 pedal, which have been scratched out.
Yes, sir. And we connected with our supervisor of math as well, and she connects also at the school level. This is not something that has been utilized at the high school for the last several years.
Okay,
that's
so it's just
why.
not being used?
Yes, sir, and we're just, again, going through and doing a cleanup.
And then just a general question, for the actual AP courses, do the syllabi for those courses come from the AP people? How much influence do we have over what's taught in those courses?
The College Board, I say,
Yeah.
the College Board provides the guidance, and they do provide us instruction on how to guide that coursework in preparation for the AP coursework. So we stick pretty heavily to that guide in order to ensure that we are prepping them for the next phase of what they're entering.
And for the test.
And for the test.
Right, I mean, they've got to pass the.
Ultimately, yes, sir,
Right.
I always try to.
I mean, I'm not saying that
Yes,
you're
yeah.
teaching to the test, but
Right.
the material you're covering is what's covered on the
To
test.
prepare for, yes, to prepare for all materials that are taught through that coursework, yes, sir.
The College Board is connected to the VDOE.
No, separate, that's a separate organization.
No.
The National College Board. But the courses are inclusive of, tied to VDOE SOLs. So it's, it's not like students are learning something that's totally different than SOLs. There's a connection there. But the courses are prepared, the syllabi are prepared, materials often come from College Board. And that's how the advanced placement courses work across the nation.
Are they approved through the VDOE or not?
Absolutely.
So another question is concerning, let's see, where am I? Are we notes? The Advanced Placement AP Seminar, which is on page 29 at the top. There formerly was, in the course description, statement that it culminates in an individual-based essay, essentially a term paper, and that has been removed. Is that our decision, or is that the College Board's decision?
Yeah, we went, when we added the two to include for the English component for 10, so we've just split those. So we didn't remove it, it would still be included in that particular, or you're talking about for the capstone component?
It says Advanced Placement AP Seminar, course number 1429Y.
Yes.
And it's yeah, and the research-based essay of approximately 2,000 words has been scratched out.
Yes, we went off of the descriptor. It doesn't mean that essay is not going to be included, and it doesn't mean that additional coursework cannot be included within that essay, but when we split and did AP coursework for it to count for an English credit, and we had that addition, so we that particular statement.
But my point is, it's been removed. It's no longer part of the course description.
We're not saying that it's not part of the course description.
But it's been removed from the course description, so it is no longer part of the course description.
I think he's talking about the final assignment. I think he's saying, why is that not included? I think it might be like, we don't, in other courses, I would say, we don't usually say there's going to be an exam at the end that's
Correct.
course-based, right?
Correct.
So I think it's just aligning with what they.
So I guess the bottom line for me is a student in that class going to be required to write an essay at the end of the course?
If it's what is continued to be practiced for the elective course, that is what is being done currently, yes.
I'm not hearing an answer to my question. If a student is enrolled in that class, who decides whether they write an essay or not?
It would be up to who is performing that task.
Exactly. It's not part of the mandated course description, right? Formerly, if that was listed as part of the course description, every instructor is required to have their students write that essay. That is no longer the case, right?
We wouldn't, yes, sir. We would not include
That's
it.
my point.
Yes.
That a requirement of that course has been removed. An instructor may at their initiative put it back in, but they are not mandated to. Formerly, they were mandated to.
For the previous.
So my point is, that course has been weakened. Now, and then my question was that our decision, or is that the College Board's decision?
That's what was suggested in the program of studies, and we can certainly take that back.
Who made that suggestion?
The collection of our.
So it's our decision, not the College Board's decision. So I'm not entirely comfortable with that.
Yes, sir.
I like that because you have to have a written portion. What length is this written part usually?
It says 2,000 words.
2,000 words? It seems like that always consolidates a lesson in my mind, so I would agree with Dr. Day.
Is this a second reading of the,
Yeah, that's why I'm not ready to approve this tonight, because I have a lot of questions about it.
So
And
why
I will
don't you,
contact you and try to
get those
arrange a
answers?
time to go through my
All
other
right.
questions.
we good? So we can have the communication. Let's move on to the next item. Thank you very much. Thank you. What was the next item?
Mental health grant?
Mental health grant, Dr. Copeland.
Dr. Brown?
Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Are y'all still awake today?
New Year.
Well, I know that we've talks about budgets and not having certain funds, and I have found money to give to you. So hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. But we're able to secure a grant. Our student service supervisor, Zoe Stokes, who's over our mental health social working team, helped find a $158,000 grant through the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. I know Dr. Gupta's question that I always am going to get, what about sustainability? I think some grants that we grow and some grants we can't. And so this is one of those grants that's one-time funding that we're aware of. We make sure that our community partners are aware of it. And then we use that funding throughout the duration of the grant, which would be from right now until June 30th, 2025. These are all for contracted mental health services to continue to help pay for those services that are being provided in the schools, primarily through Impact Family Services and Harvest Behavioral Health. And so those are our two main partners providing day treatment, SEBS, social emotional support, not day treatment because that's through Medicaid, but social emotional behavior support programs and systems in the school. So that's pretty much the gist of what we're here just to make you aware of. I think in the past, the board has voted to approve or disapprove certain grants, and so thought we should bring this to you as a board for your situational awareness. We've gotten some of these grants before. We got a grant for $400,000 this time last year, and that grant has decreased in funding for this year, but it's still something that we needed to move forward with. Any questions?
Does the city have to match any part of this grant?
There's no match to this grant. No.
Good job. That's great.
Are you looking for an action from the board or just information?
It's just informational.
Right. Thank you very much, Doug. Go ahead.
I have a question, not on this topic, regarding Fort Hill, the restorative academies. I think the board asked you for information on the SOL scores of those that have attended.
Yes, sir.
Did we ever get that from you?
We'll get that next board meeting.
On the agenda for the 14th.
That's on, oh, okay,
So,
thank you.
Looking forward to that conversation.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Dr. Brown.
Appreciate it.
I didn't see that, sorry.
SRO memorandum, MOU, Dr. Copeland.
This is coming to you for action tonight. It's the refresh of the MOU we have with the Lynchburg Police Department for our SROs. We brought it once before. I think we answered any questions. We didn't have any dewbacks on it, so
So there's no change since December 17th, which is when we saw it previously?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
So if you guys approve it tonight, then I'll sign it and we'll get it over to the chief so he can sign it. And
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second? You second, Dr. Day. Any good discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Gilio?
Yes.
Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Dr. Day?
Yes?
Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
Mrs. Preston?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mrs. Laurie?
Yes.
Dr. Jennison?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one is school board member reports. Gov School, Mrs. Lowry.
It's for CVGS, 100,000 in grants, but no more for 2 years, 80,000 in the budget, and plus 20,000 in grants that they've been able to get. So, we voted to allot 25,000 not to exceed, for this amount. There's no cost for students who participate in science fairs. They use a P card, but they got reimbursed. And they have the money for the hospital insurance increase due to budgeting for January 1st. And $88,726 in capital layout as part of the computer laptop. And everything is covered and there's no deficit.
Thank you. Next one is Laura, again, Mrs. Lowry.
Discussion was on out-of-the-box places for speech teachers to work. And also each county gave an update. All is going pretty well. All areas have a difficult time with getting speech pathologists. Some colleges actually have dropped the program. So it's disappearing.
Thank you. Next one is STEM Academy, Mr. Connor.
No changes except the month of February, they'll be accepting applications for sophomores going into the junior year.
Thank you. Next one is Finance and Facilities, Chair DePaul.
No new news. We haven't had a meeting since the last report.
Thank you. Next one is LSCR, Chair Jalil.
No changes.
Thank you. Next one is Academic Success Committee, Chair Lowry.
Our next meeting is January 28th. We're working on the agenda right now, and then we'll probably finish with it before I leave January 16th, and then it'll be Dr. Day and Mrs. Preston that will be handling that meeting.
Next one is PI, Mr. Andrews and Dr. Tinsley.
Tomorrow morning, still on, as far as I know, the 7:30 pie breakfast.
Thursday.
Sorry,
Thursday morning, yep.
Yeah, Thursday. I'm ahead of myself. Yeah, Thursday, pie breakfast at 7:30. As far as I know, and I would just say this to the board members, if you haven't signed up yet, the link still works, so go sign up. And support the partners in education.
Thank you. Next one is Ed Foundation, Mr. DePaul and Mr. Jalil.
Thomas Edison stated, "Time is really the only capital that any human being has and the only thing he can't afford to lose." Lynchburg City Schools is fully embracing this with their theme, Minutes Matter, and the Lynchburg City Schools Education Foundation has put this theme into action by providing strategic funding into removing as many barriers to student learning as possible, while continuing to support our legacy programs that empower teachers and students for a brighter future. Today, we're asking that you invest in this crucial endeavor to support the Foundation's mission of advancing excellence and equity in our city's public schools. We hope you will consider a tax deductible donation to ensure the public education is the clear first choice for education in the city of Lynchburg. $75 will provide 3 years of new books mailed to every eligible child in our Lynchburg's Imagination Library program. $250 would sponsor enrollment for a junior or senior's cosmetology education, putting them on a pathway to success. And $600 would pay for one required class, helping to fund a teacher's path to full licensure. Please consider donating to the Education Foundation today.
Thank you. Next one is Beacon of Hope, Mr. Andrews and Mrs. Preston.
We don't have anything to report.
Thank you. Next one is Superintendent comment, Dr. Copeland.
I just want a big shout out and thanks to maintenance, grounds, and the custodial teams for getting out there on Monday and getting the schools cleaned up. If they had not have done that hard work, we'd have sheets of ice everywhere and their schools look great. So we'll have students back on campus tomorrow on a 2-hour delay. That's it.
Thank you. Next one is board comment. We'll start with Mr. Connor.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Jalil.
No, thank you.
Mr. Andrews.
Just looking forward to meeting with council.
Dr. Day.
Well, I and several others from our board attended the SBMA symposium on December 5 and 6. There are many great sessions there. One of the things that was repeated, I would say over and over throughout that meeting by various speakers, one after another, is the importance of keeping academic progress at the center of everything that we as a board do. That refers to our budgeting, our planning, our policies. Everything needs to be focused on the academic progress of our students. There were several high-profile visitors and speakers, some of whom were surprises. The governor showed up, the lieutenant governor showed up, the attorney general showed up, the chair of the State Board of Education showed up, and the secretary of education for the state of Virginia all showed up as part of this meeting. And I thought it was kind of exciting that all of those high-level people from Richmond came to talk to, I don't know what the attendance was, maybe 50 people, would you say, something like that. So it was really great, and from my perspective, your membership fee in SBMA is worth every dollar.
Did you mention Attorney General?
Attorney General was there, yep.
That's it? Thank you.
I'm done.
Mrs. Preston?
Nothing.
Mr. DePaul?
It was a great event.
Mrs. Lowry?
Yes, I didn't know if anybody saw all the beautiful scenery from the ice and the sun. It was just, the city looked amazing. It was just, anyways, that was my thing. I'm looking forward to the cell phone bell-to-bell to help students focus, so that being in there. And I want to thank all of our business partners who have been on board with the pamphlet that I've been visiting, and then I know Ms. Preston's going to visit some other people to encourage and to help the parents from birth to pre-K prepare their children to have a great start to school. And also, when at the SBMA, I talked with the Secretary of Education, and she is looking for, and I've talked to some teachers, they know there needs to be an adjustment to SOLs. They know that. They need the SOLs because they need the numbers, but they know the kids need more prep time. So I've already asked some teachers to start a grid to put in some ideas, and hopefully we'll get that passed around. I talked to her over Christmas break, and hopefully we can get something to her that would help our students instead of them feeling bogged down by the SOL. So at least I'm thankful they're open to, they know there needs to be some changes, but they need those numbers. So anyways.
Thank you. Dr. Tinsley?
I would just encourage us to look to expand the dual enrollment courses that are offered in our high schools, especially with the governor's opening that up at no cost through the community college system. So that's a wonderful opportunity for our students. I'd say whatever we can do with that. And I am supportive of expansions of CT in early college as we can do that and on the proper timelines. I think that would be, again, wonderful opportunities for our students and families. That's all I have.
Last one is mine. I wanted to thank Ms. James. You've been working very hard, ma'am. We appreciate you, everything you do. It's not easy to put a budget together. We can sit here and do a Monday morning quarterback and try to tear it up, but it takes a lot of work, and thank you very much to you and your team. And also, Mrs. Day, last year was painful, but we'll make it easier for you this year. Call you all the time. But we appreciate everybody, and every teacher, every staff member. This board appreciates you. I mean, so I can say on behalf of all of you, right? Happy New Year, and hope we look forward to doing a better job for you in this coming year as a board. We got to take care of you, and we'll do everything possible to do that. Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.
Anybody exits out the side door?